Questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries, and we'll confirm that later in the agenda. Questions on tonight's agenda for the city manager? Does anyone have questions? City manager, anything for us?
No, sir.
Okay. Is there a move to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, we are adjourned the committee of the whole. For our audience, we'll get started right at 6 o'clock. You are certainly welcome to visit amongst yourselves. We'll get started in just a minute. We'll call to order tonight's Auburn City Council meeting for January the 20th, 2026. We welcome all of you who are joining us live here in council chambers, as well as those that are watching on our streaming services and listening to us through WANI. With the roll call, Lindsay?
Adams,
Here.
Koblenz,
Here.
Dawson,
Here.
Griswold,
Here.
Mormon,
Here.
Parsons,
Here.
Taylor,
Here.
Witten,
Here.
Anders.
Here. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Earlier tonight, during the Committee of the Whole, we had one action item. The City Council agreed to appoint Sherry Stanyard to the Cemetery Advisory Board. She'll begin immediately, and that term ends December 31st of 2029. We certainly want to thank Ms. Gwen Reed, who served 2 full terms on the Cemetery Advisory Board. Under announcements tonight, this Saturday is the annual Polar Plunge. We've had mixed results from the council over the years about participation. Some years they have shown mighty large amounts of courage and have joined us out there. Some years they've come only in a support role, and some years there have been no-shows. I'm putting it out there right now that we will be there at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning, weather permitting, and it is a great way to have a great time and raise money for a great cause, which is Lee County Special Olympics. So, in the early years of this, you had to swim all the way across the other side of the pool. Thank goodness, I believe, Miss Allison, that is no longer a requirement. You can jump in and jump out if you want to, which we certainly appreciate. I always refer back to the early days of some of us on the council, and we all went out there with a lot of fun and ambition to be a part of this event. And here comes Mr. Bob Parsons, who's I was still trying to get to know in those days. And he shows up with full gear on that I'm sure that the coldness of the water never affected any of his bodily temperatures, and flippers. So as the rest of us poor souls jumped in the pool and struggled to get to the other side, Bob was there within a matter of seconds and smiling at us as we struggled to reach the other side. All that being said, it's a great event and a great cause, and it does take a little bit of courage. So anyway, this Saturday morning, we're looking forward. I know the weather's a little dicey. Are we still going to be there? Perfect. Okay. We're going to get wet anyway, right? In addition, I want to say thank you to the people with let's see, I want to get this right here. Here we go. National Forum for Black Public Administrators, the East Central Alabama chapter, who host every year the annual Martin Luther King Breakfast, which was yesterday morning. It was an outstanding program that had a lot of variety to it and a lot of really good stuff. The panel was excellent. The performers were excellent, and it was well organized. And we've got a number of people in this room and a number of people who work for the city that are on the board that make this happen. And all of you know who you are, and I thank you for your efforts and your work on this. And it's a great way to start the MLK Day. Also, later that morning, I went to Opelika and participated in the Dream Day Foundation event, which is mainly focused on our youth. And they did a great job, and I appreciate Miss Marion Sankey, who has headed that up for many, many years in Opelika. And then at the end of the day yesterday, I was able to speak to the new fraternity presidents here at Auburn, who gathered together under the guise of a local student ministry. And I appreciate those young men wanting to lead and being called to lead their fraternities over the next year. And it was a great time to spend with them as they get prepared to take the reins of their group of men. All right, that's all I got. Anyone else have an announcement they'd like to make? Okay, we will move ahead with Auburn University communications.
Hey, good afternoon. I hope everyone enjoyed their MLK Day holiday. We are getting right back into the swing of things on Auburn's campus. The Student Government Association's patio project was completed and opened on the first day of classes. This is a project that has been in the works for almost a year now, and it provides students with an outdoor space right outside of the Student Center, and hopefully will be very, very, very fun for football season. But it's been really cool to see so many students are already utilizing that space. And then spring campaign call nights took place last night. This is officially kicking off the spring semester elections. Campaigns will continue for the following 2 weeks with elections to follow. And then SGA's lobby board has begun reaching out to state legislators. They are lobbying for Auburn to receive more money from the overall Higher Education Fund of Alabama. And then Auburn Panhellenic has initiated their Pi Chi interview process. The Pi Chis are the members of Panhellenic that assist in guiding potential new members through the recruitment process. So they obviously play a very vital role in that experience. And then lastly, Auburn student recruiters have selected their new executive leadership team and will begin interviews soon, and information sessions are being held later this week. We are super excited for all that this semester has to hold. That's all from me. Thank you, and War Eagle.
Good. Thank you very much, Evelyn. We appreciate it. War Eagle. Okay, we'll move forward to citizens' communications on items on tonight's agenda. If you'd like to speak to the council about any item on tonight's agenda, now would be the time to come forward. Ask for your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes to speak. There are some items on our agenda under resolutions that have public hearings attached. If you'd like to speak about one of those items, please wait until that time, and we'll allow you to do that during the public hearing. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Sarah Collins. I'm at 875 Cahaba Drive, and I'm just wanted
To check before I launch in, is now the appropriate time to ask or comment on 9A?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank
it is.
you. About amending the code for definitions of multi-use paths and to define allowable uses on sidewalks and multi-use paths. I would just ask, in whatever decision y'all make, to keep in mind, I know maybe it's just a perception that I have, but there tends to be sort of a reactionary attitude to allowing things like bicycles or scooters on multi-use pathways or sidewalks. And so I would ask that in whatever decision you make, keeping in mind if we are limiting who can use multi-use paths, particularly keeping in mind access for people using bicycles, for instance, it's very difficult to get into downtown on a bicycle because it becomes unallowed to use your bicycle on the sidewalk from like Glen up to the corner, to Toomer's Corner, where it's very dangerous to drive a bicycle on the road past the parked cars. I won't do it because I'm afraid of getting hit. So in an attempt to keep pedestrians safe, we've cut off access to cyclists and other people trying to access the downtown area. So in whatever decision's made, trying to think of still allowing access and keeping people safe and trying not to be reactionary in favor of just pedestrians or just cars. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Who'll be next? Okay, we'll move ahead with city manager's communications.
Mayor, I do not have any city managers' communications this evening. Are you ready for the consent agenda?
Please.
The first item of business is the consent agenda. Does any council member wish to remove an item and deal with that separately?
Yes. 9A.
Mr. Mayor, I got 8
Did you say, what'd you say,
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Parsons?
ordinances.
Yeah, it's under ordinances.
We'll get to that
I'm sorry-
shortly.
I'm sorry, it's off the consent agenda. My bad.
Okay.
Sure
all right,
thing.
Good. Max?
8C2, please.
C2. Okay. Mr. Mormon?
Yes, please. 8 Charlie 1, 8 Charlie 3.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. 8C1.
Item 8C1 authorizes a 3-year contract renewal with ESRI Incorporated in the amount of $66,600 per year for a total contract amount of $199,800.
Move for approval.
Second. Motion is second. Mr. Mormon?
Thank you. My understanding is that this software will be used daily by our staff and by citizens.
Yeah, it has been for many years.
Well, how would the average citizen, I guess, access this software? It's like a GIS, like the county Alabama GIS system.
We'd like to think it's better than the
But-
county
but
GIS.
better. And would there be an app on your phone you could?
So right now, in simple form, if you go to auburnal.gov/maps, you can enter into an interactive map of the city. It tells you your voting ward, school districts you're in, a variety of information about floodplains, zoning, land use, all kinds of things. And so we've been building this system out for nearly 30 years. Probably in the 25 to 30 year range. And it's a bunch of data that's tied to all kinds of geographic points, among many other things. And our staff uses it daily to conduct our work, everything from building permitting to business licensing to what have you. We have to verify addresses and all kinds of things. And so this is just a standard contract renewal for us. As a matter of fact, we've won a lot of awards from the company ESRI for our innovation in GIS. And what the difference is, the county has a very specific property tax thing that they need to do, and they use something called flagship GIS, and that is absolutely fine in what they do. And they may use the ArcGIS platform that we use, but they use it differently and in different applications than we do. So generally speaking, we're renewing something we've had for a very long period of time. And like I said, most of our city staff has to use it on the daily. Police and fire use it. Everybody uses it to locate and do things.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anybody else have a question?
How often is it updated?
Mr. Nelson.
Sure. So I think we would be looking at probably annual updates. I mean, the renewals come through on an annual basis. We do try to step that out for 3 years.
Okay.
We are getting a very good deal on this product, which really, as Megan mentioned, this is really the framework for a lot of the things that we do every day.
Yeah, I'm familiar with ESRI. They're a good go-to company. I just know the maps link on the website. I don't know, maybe just me. I had typed in an address the other day, for example, on South Gay Street, and it kept coming up, nothing found, nothing found, nothing found. Where I put in South, S-pot, period, or whatever, spelled out street, not spelled out street. So if those types of issues, if a citizen has those kind of non-responsive replies from the app or from the website, who should they contact?
They can put it in the Fix It app, or they can call City Hall. Any of that, we'll get them to somebody that can help them.
We have contact information on the website.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries.
Item 8C2 authorizes the purchase of one Ventrac 4520N compact tractor and attachments for the Public Works Department via state contract from Koblenz Equipment and Parts Company Incorporated in the amount of $77,090.66.
Move for approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Koblenz is no longer with us, so.
That way, we need to note in the record that he is recused completely and left to dais.
Exactly. All right, any other following questions or comments?
I do want to emphasize for the council, this is on state contract. This is the only way that we can get this price for this equipment, and that is the only vendor accessible to us for this equipment, and we've used Koblenz Equipment Company for years.
Absolutely.
May I ask a couple of questions? Sure. Just informational. Is this the only one in our inventory? It's the only machine
In
like
particular,
this?
I'll have Mr. Ballard explain in a minute. We had budgeted this as what appears in the budget as a street sweeper, which is a little bit of a misnomer in terms of how it was categorized. It's for the downtown area to do a lot of maintenance in tight spaces, and we had budgeted for a kind of all-encompassing device that we tested and did not care for it in the same way we care for this. Mr. Ballard.
Of these assets that we have. So the second Ventrac
Yeah.
compact tractor that we have in our inventory.
Right.
It'll be predominantly used downtown, but this is a very versatile piece of equipment for us. It has multiple attachments that we can utilize in everything from, again, surface scrubbing, which is what this unit will be used for, predominantly, to right-of-way maintenance with the various attachments that you can put on it.
It also is nearly a $200,000 savings over what we had budgeted.
We bought one of these a few months ago, didn't we?
No, sir. The Ventrac tractor we've had for at least a couple of years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Time flies. And the one it's replacing won't even go up a 10-degree ramp or something, will it?
Correct. It will not go up either of the parking garage ramps. Not on its own power.
And it's predominantly to do just that. I mean, that's why we're buying it, among other things.
Yes, sir. Amongst other things, it'll be used in the parking garages, but then also when we do the biannual pressure washing of the downtown sidewalks. But you can use this for any hard surface cleaning. So, I mean, it can be used for anything from tennis court cleaning if Parks and Rec needed to use it. anywhere with a hard surface. Our permeable pavers, we'll be using it for that as well. So Toomer's intersection, where we do have permeable pavers, are out here in this parking lot, the public safety parking lot, where we have paver applications, we can use it as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries.
Item 8C3 authorizes Jacob's Task Order 4/2026 for the Auburn VT SCADA Conversion Automation Solutions Provider Services for the Water Resource Management Department in the amount of $214,000.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Mormon?
Okay, this is 8 Charlie 3, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. The benefits of this system really, this purchase is that our old system is no longer supported and is obsolete. So it's a no-brainer from that standpoint.
Correct.
And the cost of our last system was $127,000, I see.
Correct, per your question today, yes.
Right. Okay. I think that was the only questions I had. It's not something we can put off, apparently. This is something that,
I can have Mr. Carson speak to that, and he can explain in non-engineering terms, in very basic, what it's used for. Eric?
Right. This system's used, our operators use this system. They monitor several monitors in their control room, and this software allows them to operate the pumps and motors and see alarms and monitor all the pump stations across the city and all that. And the Rockwell software that we currently have is no longer being supported, so it's being phased out. The last support they offered was with Windows 10, and we've moved on to Windows 11. Greg does a great job at IT trying to keep it running, but it's going to get more and more challenging. And now is the time to go ahead and move on, because they're not going to support it anymore. And it's essential that we have this. This is like the air traffic controllers landing planes. They have all the software and stuff in front of them, but if it's not working, if it's not supported, everything is out of control.
And Eric, you're referring to our ability to pump sewer and for the pump stations and to move things along at the plant?
Yeah, it just allows the operator to do his job. I mean, that's what he sits there and monitors all day and pushes buttons, monitors alarms, sends maintenance crews out. This is essential for his daily activities. Like I said, Greg does a great job keeping it running, but also from a security standpoint, this is a big thing. The old software is very hard to put in security patches, and this will make it much easier for us to protect us from, people with bad intentions. So.
there was something I read in here about it's in 3 separate software packages. The
That's
current
another,
one.
yeah, this software is in 3 different softwares with Rockwell. The company we're going to, VT SCADA, would consolidate that to one where everything's integrated and a lot easier to use, so.
All right, very good, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve the balance of the consent agenda? So moved. Second. All right, a motion and a second. Any further questions? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the consent agenda is approved. Ordinances.
Item 9A amends various sections of city code to add a definition for multi-use paths and to further define allowable uses on sidewalks and multi-use paths. Unanimous consent is necessary.
I'll introduce the ordinance and ask for unanimous consent.
I have a motion and seconds. Anyone on the council have a problem moving forward with the vote on this evening? All right, seeing or hearing none, any comments or questions?
Yeah, I wonder if we could get an overview of why we're at this point and what type of regulations we can expect on this.
So we're at this point, we're familiar with multi-use paths, which are sidewalks that are larger than 5 feet in width as defined in here, but they're not defined in city code currently, and so it's caused several issues. 2 of the most important issues that people can relate to is One, we have a very nice multi-use path that is brand new on Martin Luther King Drive, and we have people parking on the multi-use path. Police have not been able to enforce no parking on the multi-use path because the multi-use path is not defined in city code as anything different. It's not a sidewalk because it's wider than 5 feet. And so they can't enforce vehicles that are parking on it, can't ask them to move or do anything else because we don't have a law about it. The other thing, there's other things defined in here. The other challenge that we're having is there's lots of confusion in the Richland Road and Moores Mill areas of golf carts that are driving on the multi-use path, and arguments ensuing between pedestrians, bicyclists, and golf carts. And again, police cannot enforce golf carts being on multi-use paths, which we never designed a multi-use path for a golf cart. It was designed for bicycles, scooters, strollers, skateboards, you name it. The concern raised earlier was whether or not they would be prohibited. Multi-use paths were created with the intention of sharing with multiple devices, but larger motorized devices such as a golf cart, there was not a time that these were designed. We are not Peachtree City, Georgia, and we did not design these paths for golf carts, and they're being heavily used, and police cannot easily enforce that, nor can we carry on a PR campaign saying you can't do that when we don't have a law about it. So it's the same with the parking. If you choose to adopt this tonight or moving forward, we have a PR campaign to do before implementation for both people that live along Martin Luther King Drive and in all the neighborhoods where we're having challenges, where we need to get out on social media and other things and remind people it's expressly prohibited. And so it's the challenge. The way this is defined, I've also received a question about something called a multi-use lane, which is on Sanders and in North and South Cary Drives. Those are different. They're actually on the pavement of the road, as opposed to these are off-road. Multi-use paths are different, and so those are not rolled up in this current definition. If the council wants to pursue that, right now, multi-use lanes are also not defined in city code, and Brandy Ezell can talk more about those if you have further questions and how we came upon those. But those are a separate and apart issue that we can certainly evaluate at the discretion of the council.
Regarding Ms. Collins's concerns about downtown accessibility, this doesn't really touch on that particular issue.
Correct. And downtown accessibility, where specifically really on the core of Magnolia and College, in the core of downtown, where a lot of devices are expressly prohibited, it is but because of volume of pedestrians and businesses that doors swing out. Some swing in, some swing out, but we have near misses on the regular with a citizen stepping out of a business and about getting smoked by a bicycle or a scooter. And that's a separate situation. And so has to be looked at a little bit differently in this regard. And Brandy can step in here in terms of our intent when multi-use path was a multimodal. This is before electric bicycles in the form that they're in now and their high-speed nature were formed, but it was absolutely intended for bicycles of all sorts to be on there, skateboards, etc. But we don't have these in the downtown area at this time. Brandy?
No, I would just concur with what Megan said. This does not change what is currently in place downtown. Those sidewalks, even though they are wider than 5 feet, are still within a zone where bicycles are not allowed on them. But this does not really speak to that, and specifically excludes that area that is designated.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
It's not going to affect handicapped scooters or wheelchairs, is it?
No, those are expressly, called out in here as belonging on the multi-use path.
Everybody understood that.
Yes. And again, if the council would like to marinate on this or what have you, we are fine. We're bringing it forward because we have concerns and we have the inability to enforce certain things, but it is also fine to take your time or do whatever you wish.
Electric bikes and electric scooters are allowed on that as well, is the way it reads.
Yes, they are allowed, and they are allowed per state law as well.
Yeah.
So we are consistent with state law on that as of right now. Now,
Perfect.
we can change that if there were a need, but we are basically mimicking state code.
Go ahead, please.
The problem I have is the sidewalk over on Martin Luther King. And I don't think there's an issue with moving vehicles such as scooters and those type of things. So far, I haven't, but there's been a lot of complaints, and even I'm complaining about people actually parking on the sidewalk. Because if you parking there, you park all day, then that don't give people who do have some type of disability or something, and they're driving a scooter, and they can't get around, they got to basically get in the road or on somebody's property in order to get by. So I've seen it myself on Martin Luther King, where people just actually parked all day on the sidewalk. And I just don't think that's the purpose of a sidewalk, is to park. So, yeah, I think it needs to be looked at.
You're referring to outside of game day also, just on a regular day that you see issues
Yeah.
with this, yes.
This puts a
yeah,
stop
that-
to that,
that's-
though, doesn't it?
What?
This puts a stop to that.
Correct.
Yeah.
That is in part, and that is because multi-use paths aren't currently defined in city code, why we are helpless to enforce that in the moment.
Sonny, what do you have a
Yes,
question?
I think we're going to get into a lot of particular anecdotal situations, which we should. And I don't think we've had time to do that. For instance, one of the things that is allowed goes very, very fast, and that's these electric scooters. I mean, they probably could do 25 miles an hour. Could be the fastest thing I've seen out there outside of a car. And they're all over the place. But I think that will be allowed, and it may be a question of size rather than speed. I'm not sure how we're allowing something that can go as fast as they can go when a golf cart is not allowed. So I think it's a question of bulk and getting run over by something large as opposed to a scooter. I'm not sure what our rationale is there, and we should explore this and other things like this, I think.
This has been vetted for some time between Development Services and Public Safety, along with our legal counsel, so either Director Matthews or Director Cummings can weigh in on where we are with that.
Yeah, I'll just add that every case is going to be dependent on that specific case. I mean, you could argue that a touring road bicycle can go much faster than that, and it would be allowed on the same pathway, so.
Then
it
we're
would be
referring
a
to
case by
multi-use
case.
paths and not our sidewalks in general too, that's different, because these are wider. Scott?
No, I agree, that's a good point, and we did spend a lot of time vetting this with our legal counsel. We looked at state law and tried to, parallel what we were invoking here is, would be parallel with state law.
On a side note, I'm encouraged to see, and Auburn and Opelika citizens will also be encouraged to see the connectivity between Auburn and Opelika is happening right now with the multi-use path that goes between the airport and the golf course. So riders will be able to get to Opelika very soon without having to negotiate Pepperell Parkway or Frederick Road, and that is incredibly good news, and I think that will make a lot of commuters and cyclists in general very, very happy, and I appreciate the work that you've all done on that.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Comments?
Mr.
Yes.
Mayor. The policy as far as the downtown, that's really not changed. But what is the downtown defined as far as the prohibition? Is it just College Street?
No, sir. It is Magnolia from Wright Street to Gay.
Okay.
It is College from Tishner to Magnolia. And then it is Gay Street from Tishner also to Magnolia, I believe.
Okay.
That's my memory.
Yeah, and,
Maybe
and
off a little.
as a bike rider, I agree with your concerns there on downtown. The only thing I can suggest is that Wright Street is a good alternative to get from north to south or vice versa.
Wright Street is permitted.
Right, that's
Yeah.
what I mean. That's a good alternative for those that are having difficulty on the downtown streets that are prohibited. This adopts a new section and it refers to low-speed vehicles. Is there a accepted definition of low-speed vehicles? I looked in the actual section, I think, and it only defined them as low speed, like golf, had said 4 wheels is what it said.
Correct. So the low-speed vehicles are defined in city code as for low-speed vehicle taxi cabs, which is golf cart taxi cabs that we dealt with some time ago that really, that wasn't invoked. So they're not defined separately. They're defined in state code, and that's what we're relying on. And so the definition in state code, let me get to it real quick, is a low-speed vehicle is including neighborhood electric vehicles is defined as a 4-wheeled motor vehicle with a top speed of not greater than 25 miles per hour, a gross vehicle weight rating of less than 3,000 pounds, and complying with the safety standards provided elsewhere in code.
The reason I bring that up is I know that electric trikes are a thing that is coming, tricycles, which are 3 wheels. So I don't know where they would be considered as a low-speed vehicle. I don't know, but I think we need to ensure that our definition of low-speed vehicles is either broad or accurate, as.
Right, and right now we're just relying on the state's low-speed vehicle
Okay.
regulation.
All right, and finally, you mentioned that the multi-use lanes are not affected by this, and we had a brief discussion of it during the committee of the whole, as far the packet meeting. I would like to ask the council if we would have staff define what a multi-use lane is and what is and isn't allowed for a multi-use lane. I know I have some in my ward. I got people complaining all the time about people parking in them, not parking in them, putting their trash cans on them or whatever. They ask me what's it for, and I really don't have a good answer. If we're,
I think, Kelly, when they were built, it was, because I was living there, was for bikes was the intent, I think, and pedestrian walking, but
Well, that's what
those
I-
are loose definitions, I'm sure. It's been a while.
I would like to see us formalize that definition. I'm not saying, what to do about it one way or another. I'd just like to see it defined so that we at least have an answer when somebody says, what is this lane supposed to be for?
What Councilman Griswold has dealt with during his entire tenure on the council, questions about this is particularly parking is one of the things that he's asked me on several occasions. And because it's not defined as a bicycle lane, we have not had the right to say you can't park there unless the council decides otherwise. Brandy?
Yeah, so the history on that is similar to what Mayor Anders mentioned. We had people wanting to ride their bikes, and we had people wanting sidewalks, particularly in that area, and we were unable to construct the sidewalks through those properties. And so the road being very wide, it wasn't wide enough for bike lanes each side. So that's when we kind of adopted this multi-use lane, we called it, with the intent that people would use it for biking and pedestrians, so walking and biking, kind of in lieu of a sidewalk. When we surveyed the neighborhood at that time, they did not want to restrict parking, and so that was part of the consideration. So parking as of currently is not restricted in that multi-use lane. But again, to your point, we can look at definitions and defining that. If
Do we
need
have
to do
these lanes
something
anywhere
differently.
else in the city?
No, we do not. That's the only one right now.
Just
There you
Cary
need
Woods,
to,
all right.
yeah, Cary Woods.
Just Cary Wood, Sanders,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
well,
This is in response to citizens at the then time, with council at the time.
Does
So.
the Wrights Mill Road section fit that description?
No, it's
from
different.
Sanford to?
No, sir. It is not.
Do you want to explain quickly? Because we looked all this up based on the
Yeah,
meeting we had
so
last
it was actually developed probably 30 years ago. I think it was first striped as a parking lane. And then subsequent homeowners didn't want people parking in front of their houses. And so a lot of it has parking restricted, but some of it does still allow parking. But that was a delineation at the time, was solving a problem with people parking on both sides of the street. And so they were defining park on this side, not the other. And it has changed over time as well.
thank you. Yeah, I know that portions of the Sanders Road lane does have a sidewalk and a lane. So there's that initial assumption that we're only put in, in places where there is insufficient room for a sidewalk. Doesn't really, it has outlived itself, I think. So anyway, I would like to have the staff, with the council's concurrence, take a look at this and give us a definition of what it is, where it is, and what it can be used for, and what it cannot be used for. Is that?
Everybody good with that?
I'm good with that.
Okay.
We can certainly do that, and my recommendation would be for you to consider this separate and apart, that we need to do a little work on that. And whether you want to adopt this tonight or not is multi-use paths and multi-use lanes are separate and totally fine to bring that forward as soon as it's ready.
Yeah,
for your
absolutely. I do
consideration.
not mean to impede or delay
No, I want to clarify, make sure you're good.
deliberation or
Okay,
vote on this particular item, no.
will do.
Okay, good. All right, any other questions or thoughts? Okay, well, everybody agreeable? We'll go ahead and vote. Okay, Lindsay, with a roll call?
Oblence,
Yes, ma'am.
Dawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Griswold,
Yes, ma'am?
Mormon,
Yes, ma'am.
Parsons,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Witten,
Yes.
Adams.
Yes.
Anders.
Yes.
All right, I'd like everybody to indulge that the next 5 items are all related to one another, and I have to make a lengthy statement about each one of them. And the applicant is requesting postponement of all 5, so just hang in there with me while I run the paces on this, so that everybody can follow us. So first, we have item 9B1 is a request to pre-zone approximately 126.97 acres of property located at the northwest corner of North College Street and Shug Jordan Parkway to Comprehensive Development District for a development known as the Foundry. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this request at its December 11th meeting. Unanimous consent is necessary. A public hearing is required. The applicant has requested postponement of this item and all associated agenda items, including 9B2, 9B3, 9B4, and 9B5, to a date certain of February 3rd, 2026, and for this to be considered first reading of the ordinance.
I move to postpone to a date certain of February the 3rd and be considered as a first reading.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to postpone each of these items until February the 3rd. Any questions from anyone on the council?
Well, we need to take them individually, correct?
Yeah, we're gonna have to go through each one of these. I'll describe them and we'll take them individually.
And also, one of the reasons is I believe we're working towards a work session so that we can discuss this in greater length.
Absolutely, several council members have said, and staff long expected that you'd like a work session. This is a very large development with a lot of moving parts. We need to be sure that the council has the opportunity to spend some time with it. By design, with the ordinance for planned unit developments, which we'll get into in a minute, a later agenda item, the mayor and the mayor pro tem, and is in her warding, is allowed to invite other council members in, have seen aspects of this for several months now. The rest of the council has not, other than when it hit the planning commission agenda, so we want to give ample time to walk you through it from the start and carry you all the way through. And the applicant is definitely the one that is requesting the February 3rd date. We also need to bring a development agreement forward, which is not currently in any agenda.
Just a question on the motion. Would we still have a public hearing at a later date?
Absolutely, because you've not held it at all. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
and when you say first reading, you talking about this being the first reading?
Correct.
Even though we're not even looking at it
Well, we're reading it in,
into the record?
correct,
Okay.
which is, yes.
Yeah, you're introducing it tonight. That's it. It's out there in the public realm, has been. And then the next time, second reading just means you can't deny unanimous consent, but you can postpone or do anything else. That's the difference. First reading is just putting it out there. A lot of cities don't do things on first reading anyway. They just introduce them and carry on. So,
All right, thank you.
All right, so we do have a motion and a second.
yeah, and you do not need to roll call a postponement because
Okay.
you're just
All right.
postponing.
Anybody else got a question, comment? All right. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, and that motion carries.
Item 9B2 is a request to rezone approximately 155.18 acres of property located on the west side of North College Street across from Cary Creek Parkway and the Legacy subdivision from rural to comprehensive development district for a development known as the Foundry. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this request at its December 11th meeting. Unanimous consent is necessary. A public hearing is required. The applicant has requested postponement of this item, all associated agenda items, including 9B1, 9B3, 9B4, 9B5, to a date certain of February 3rd, 2026, and for this to be considered first reading of the ordinance.
Move to postpone to a date certain of February 3rd and be considered first reading.
Second.
All right, we have a motion second. Any questions, comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries.
Item 9B3 is a request to annex approximately 50 acres of property located on the north side of Shug Jordan Parkway and west of North College Street for a development known as the Foundry. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this request at its December 11th meeting. Unanimous consent is necessary. The applicant has requested postponement of this item and all associated agenda items, including 9B1, 9B2, 9B4, and 9B5, to a date certain of February 3rd, 2026, and for this to be considered first reading of the ordinance.
Move to postpone to a date certain of February 3rd and be considered first reading.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Has anyone got any questions, thoughts?
So, item number 3 and 4, they don't have public hearings.
No, ma'am, because they are annexations. Thank you for asking.
Yep. Any other questions? Good question, Colin. All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries.
Item 9B4 is a request to annex approximately 76.97 acres of property located on the north side of Shug Jordan Parkway across from Hickory Dickory Park for a development known as the Foundry. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this request at its December 11th meeting. Unanimous consent is necessary. The applicant has requested postponement of this item and all associated agenda items, including 9B1, 9B2, 9B3, and 9B5, to a date certain of February 3rd, 2026, and for this to be considered first reading of the ordinance.
Move to postpone to a date certain of February 3rd and to be considered first reading.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries.
Item 9B5 is a request to apply the Plan Unit Development Designation, known as PUD or PUD, to approximately 282 acres of property located at the intersection of North College Street and Shug Jordan Parkway for a development known as the Foundry. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this request at its December 11th meeting. Unanimous consent is necessary and a public hearing was required. The applicant has requested postponement of this item and all associated agenda items, including 9B1, 9B2, 9B3, and 9B4, to a date certain of February 3rd, 2026, and for this to be considered first reading of the ordinance.
Move to postpone to a date certain of February 3rd and be considered first reading.
Second.
All right. Have a motion and a second. Anyone have any comments, questions? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and that motion
And
carries.
just a quick explainer, that's zonings and annexation to culminate ultimately in 9B5 to get to the Plan Unit Development District, and they have to go in the previous order when we get there. And staff will recommend along the way, if you get to acting upon this, that if you were to choose to rezone any of this, you need to be very on board with Plan Unit Development. Because that's the culmination and contractually locking the property to what you're approving. All right, moving into resolutions, Mayor. You ready?
Please.
Item 10A1 is a request for conditional use approval of a performance residential use of private dormitory for property located at 306 East Thatch Avenue. Planning Commission recommended approval of this request by a vote of 8-1 at its January 8th meeting. A public hearing is required.
Move for approval.
Second. Second.
Have a motion and a second. This time I'll open the public hearing. If you'd like to address the council about this, please come forward and give us your name and address for the record. You will have 5 minutes to speak to the council.
Brett Bashwin with the Foresight Group, representing the applicant. Just want to kind of talk through this particular project. We did get unanimous approval at Planning Commission, but this project's a little unique and different. We're trying to save the existing house up front. It's a 1920s house. We're trying to save up front and build the additional 3 units behind them. So it's a little different. Most of the time, as I mentioned in Planning Commission, I usually show up on the cover of the paper when we tear down the house to build these units. So we're trying to save this house and build these new units behind. The actual property owner will get up and speak a little bit more about that, but he's had conversations with the neighbors and everything, so we should be fine. All right, thank you.
How are y'all? I'm Drew Goodner. I'm the property owner, and I know y'all had some initial...
Address, Mr. Goodner.
432 Pinedale Drive, Auburn.
Thank you.
I think y'all had some initial communication from the property owner's daughters, and then they reached out to y'all again, and they reached out to me, and after seeing Planning Commission, they understood what I was trying to do, that it seemed to have minimal impact to them, and they asked if I would put a fence up, and I told them that that was my plan, and that I would meet and work with them on that, so it wasn't too far on their property. I think they were initially unaware of where the property line was and how close it was to their structure. But the main goal is to keep that front house. It's a 1920s house. You know, a lot of those get torn down. It would make more sense to tear it down and put more units there. I'm putting about half the beds on the property that you can do. There's a lot of uses that are permitted there. Multifamily cottages, there's some higher density you can do by right. This being private dormitory because I'm adding a couple of units out back. So I think that's it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, close the public hearing. Any comments or questions to the council?
I have some questions for the
Please.
property owner.
Okay, yes. Mr. Goodner, would you please come forward?
Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
When I initially saw a private dorm in an urban neighborhood, I was like, oh my God, no, let's not do that. But I, as well as everyone on the council, has received positive support for your project from local residents, and I appreciate you reaching out and talking to them.
Yes, sir.
Are you gonna change the facade at all of the existing house? Is there gonna be some changes that you can make a difference on from the street?
You're asking if I plan to or if I
Right,
will?
if you plan to, yeah.
I don't plan to, no. I plan to keep that house as it is. I mean, you may see some landscaping change.
Sure,
But
sure.
the house, as I bought it from an older lady who's, I think her dad or grandfather built it.
Okay.
I had to go meet her at the nursing home to sign the papers. She'd lived in it since she was little, and so I guess I'm the second owner of it. And I told her I don't like to tear down
Great.
old houses, that it would be rented to students. The inside's been changed, but the outside will remain how it is, so you
Okay,
won't see a
and
change.
I certainly applaud
Yeah.
you for that.
You won't see, you'll see that same porch there. The units will be out back, so you really, I mean, you'll see a little bit of a streetscape change, but not the facade.
And this is gonna, same common uses of what you have now, rental to students?
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
Yeah.
And I've got, I met the neighbors when I first moved there. The Olsons have been there, I think, since the 70s, and I went and met them, and we've gotten along well. At first, it was some boys there. They didn't love having guys next door, so it's been girls, and we haven't had any issues. I stop by and say hey to them every now and then. And then I did tell them about this. They have gotten older, so I think they were a little confused, but the two daughters have both reached out, and we've had good conversations.
Are you gonna establish an HOA or something for grounds maintenance?
No, there won't be an HOA because I own the whole property. There's not really a way to
So
establish one on
how will the
yourself. I don't-
front, how will the appearance be managed?
Through my yard man.
Okay, I hope it's not the same one you use over on Drake, so.
I don't own anything. I don't own anything on Drake.
Oh,
so-
okay, I thought that fraternity, quasi-fraternity thing at the corner of
Not
Drake
me.
was yours.
Not
Okay,
me.
all right, glad to hear that. That thing's a mess. Okay, well, thank you very much. Appreciate
welcome.
your,
You don't appreciate their landscaping, Kelly?
I don't appreciate anything.
Any questions from anyone else?
Thank you.
Yeah, I've got a question, Drew, while
Yes,
you're
sir.
here. I watched the planning commission deliberation, and I wasn't able to fully understand your curb cuts there. You're going to put in you're going to eliminate the existing driveway. Is that on the street level as well?
The driveway as well, as far as how the actual parking layout, and if that curb cut has to be completely eliminated or not, will be if this is approved when we meet with planning.
That's down the way.
But that driveway will be eliminated. So I talked to Renee Olson and told her that there still may be a few cars that park there, but it will not be a throughway anymore. So we don't know if the curb cut has to go away.
And then there'll be a new one introduced on the eastern side of the house.
The left, yes, sir. I don't.
Yes,
I'm bad
on
with
the
east and
left,
west.
on the
But
left-hand side, yes.
There will be. That's where the main curb cut will be, and that's where ingress and egress will be. There could be a couple of parking spots by the Olsons, and they were actually appreciative that this is kind of cutting down on the cars going right past their house because it is close. So.
Yeah, that was encouraging to see the fact that should it go through, that you wouldn't be having that back and forth.
That's right. There would not
15
be
residents.
much. And the parking is, their house sits very close to the front, and their lot actually is kind of cut in half. She said that her parents, before they bought it, someone sold off the back of it. So that's the green space you see connected to 221 Armstrong. So they don't own that. So the house actually sits really next to the existing structure, so they won't have much impact from the back. So,
thank you.
Yep. you're welcome.
Could
Yes,
I
sir.
make just a comment here? When this house was built, this portion of Armstrong Street was dirt, and that behind their house was pasture.
Back there, where where 221 is?
Where you're building, where you're gonna add these
Yes,
two
sir.
houses. So this portion of Armstrong Street from Thatch back to Hare was dirt. And it was dirt until at least early 1960s.
Okay.
I lived at 350 Armstrong Street, so I remember it well.
You know the area.
Yeah, and Auburn Bank swears there were no paved streets in 1907 when they opened up. So this goes back almost that far. It's amazing to think.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You were around in 1907?
Yes, sir. I was on the council.
Thought
back
I was
then.
over.
Anything
All
else?
right, any other questions for the property owner? Thank you, Drew.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, any other questions, comments from council? Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And the motion carries.
Item 10A2 is a request for conditional use approval of a commercial support uses, a wholesale distributor or warehouse, mini warehouse, contractor's office, and a road service use of automotive paint and body work for property located at the terminus of Hilton Garden Drive for a project known as Auburn Flex Works. The Planning Commission recommended approval of this request by a vote of 8-1 at its January 8th meeting. A public hearing is required.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. If you'd like to address the council, please come forward and give us your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes to speak to the council. Yes, sir.
Sat a little too close to the back this evening. Good evening, Lee Tharp, Cadre Engineering for the applicant. I just wanted to speak a little bit about the project. You know, there's a little bit of backstory on this is going through Planning Commission. Got approval from Planning Commission at the last meeting, but there was some additional requests they asked us for. I just want to talk through some of that from the first time we brought it in. We had a traffic study done, which kind of delayed this getting to y'all. All that's been submitted, reviewed by engineering. I think we're going to be good to go for that heading into development of the construction documents. But a couple of high points I wanted to hit related to the main points of discussion at the Planning Commission, just so y'all have all the information, you know, as we kind of continue this evening. So, excuse me, several of the high points. There's several conditional uses being requested that Megan read a second ago. Originally, we had several more. Part of the reason for that that was pulled off whenever that came to Planning Commission was, you know, this is primarily going to be a commercial office development. It's a little bit different delivery than what you'd see in a standard office building. And these are split units that have direct access to the exterior, and they are going to come with a glass roll-up door for each unit, along with obviously a single-person man door. So these this developer has several of these facilities elsewhere in the country. This is, I think, the only ones east of the Mississippi, and they may correct me on this if they get up, but I think the only ones east of the Mississippi are in Florida. Everything else is kind of in the Rocky Mountain West. But their intention is to kind of bring a similar product here. They've had good success with it. But most of the tenants they have are some sort of professional office use. The flex kind of set up with that roll-up door potential is why we're asking for some of these conditional uses. They have several tenants that informed those requests. Primarily, they've got some smaller contractor type uses that will require a little bit of limited indoor storage, which is triggering some of that. I believe there's another request for road service use associated with, they've got several of these facilities that have like a window tint shop. So they're just trying to get some of that cleared up early rather than coming back later. But again, they understand that any uses not on this list that's not approved by right would have to come back at some point whenever they have tenants to fill those spaces. One of the discussion points was related to deliveries to some of these spaces, depending on the tenant use. There is no loading dock at this facility. There's no truck yard. It's not intended to be like an industrial type development. I think they're looking more like the occasional box truck delivery if that's required, depending on the tenant use. So it's not going to be a heavy truck traffic kind of deal. The other point of discussion was visibility and aesthetics for the development, particularly visibility from Bent Creek was something we had a lot of discussion on. Understand that's kind of a gateway into Auburn. We understand that. Because of the property's connection to Bent Creek, it does trigger the requirement for the city's corridor overlay regulations, which means we're going to have to meet all those facade requirements, but the intent is for this to meet all that and have masonry exterior. I know brick is present elsewhere on the frontage, so they intend to match that. There's also pretty good separation from Glen. I think it's about 188 feet off the Glen right-of-way to this property through a parcel that's not being developed, and we're also about 30 feet above the road on the existing pads, so if that's a concern, I think that will probably limit some of that. I believe those are my main points of discussion, but if y'all got questions for me or anything, feel free to.
One point of access is off of Hilton Garden Drive. Is that the ingress and egress?
Yes, sir. It will access solely off of Hilton Garden Drive.
How many businesses do you envision being in that property?
Well, once we get past kind of and I don't know if I need to come
No,
back.
Greg,
or-
can you
Yeah.
pause because
Sorry.
council's asking questions?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I appreciate the questions. We're gonna work through how many units are gonna be available, but based on the square footage requirements for the size of the property and the zoning, I think we're in the ballpark of 20 to 25 maximum with the size spaces that they typically have. I think they're anywhere between 1,500 square foot spaces to maybe the 2,500 square foot space range. And they're flexible, so they'd have the ability, if somebody needed 2 spaces, they could take out the demising wall and have a little bit larger space if needed. There will be on-site management of the tenants of this facility also. So I know there's some concern at the planning commission level about policing the uses and things like that. So they're gonna have somebody on site that handles all that.
Go ahead, Mr. Adams. I know you have some questions.
So with that, I'll lead into that. So, you know, and I think you had mentioned that from a contractor standpoint, there may be some contractors' offices. You may gear this toward like plumbing, electrical contractors. That's something
right.
along those lines.
That's right. And that's based on some of their, again, not the primary uses at their other facilities, but they do have enough that they felt it was a valid request for this facility up front. Yeah, we're not expecting Rayburn General Contractors is not gonna be a tenant at a facility like this. Somebody with a smaller time, 2-man, 3-man plumbing shop, something like that.
Anything that protects us from having like a spool of wire or something like that's outside the building structure or.
Plan director, speak to that.
Yeah, that's a great.
I mean,
Oh, it's fine.
You
All right.
wanna use this?
There we go. All right. Yeah, that's a great question. So outdoor storage is explicitly not allowed. That was something that we brought up in the pre-app meeting,
Okay.
and that was a use that was denied.
so there'd be no outdoor storage. So the only thing that aesthetically that people will see is there's cars that are in the parking lot.
Correct. You'd be able to see the cars in the parking lot. Some to a point. The way the layout is set up is a lot of that'll be screened. But yeah, that's correct. No outdoor storage. And you may be asking about if somebody actually started leaving stuff out on the sidewalk and things like
Absolutely,
that.
yeah.
Understand. So that's part of what the on-site management is there to police. They don't want that kind of stuff happening at this facility either. So they're gonna be on top of that with some of their on-site folks. It's a good question.
Could you give a brief description of warehouse, mini warehouse usage here?
Sure,
Why that was included?
And Justice, you may have to help me out on some of the square footage requirements, the nuance of the ordinance, but part of that, I think, was mostly based on potential square footage. I think if we got over a certain threshold, it would kick into the warehouse use versus mini warehouse use.
Yeah, I think that was one of the bigger things that we were kind of talking about. So there are special development standards associated with that. That I think has to go with lot size and some of the other stuff as well. But I think that was one of the things that you are trying to avoid. I think in the development.
Correct.
All right.
Does that help? It may still be a little vague.
That helps.
Okay. Perfect.
Road service use. automotive paint body work. What's the intended use here?
The intended use, that was primarily geared toward a window tint shop, not necessarily like a heavy paint and body kind of facility. I think there's some power requirements associated with that with equipment that we're not intending to provide at this facility. Understand that that's kind of broad. If there's some, issues with that, that would be the tenant that they would be targeting, but because they've got that at their other facilities, but understanding that that's kind of a broad use with how the ordinance defines it, I think they'd be fine if that was.
I mean, if we would, if we would allow that, then they could do any automotive paint and body work.
That's correct.
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, and I guess this kind of came up. There was another conditional use where car detailing was another one that was under this, but this was also kind of the mall. This was behind the mall, whereas similar. This had the broad umbrella of the use, but what they were doing was car detailing and car washing pretty much in like on a singular level, not a big car wash, just one at a time.
How did we address that at the time?
We did not pare it down at all. I think, like I said, just kind of in the meetings, both meetings, they identified that they were going to be almost a boutique car washing facility and a detailing facility where their goal was to park one car and then they were going to service another car. And so all the parking that they had was employee parking and the parking for potential people going next kind of deal. But it was, they spent about 4 hours washing a single car. And like I said, it was under this one use. So.
But theoretically, the council could further define that, because your challenge is something changes ownership hands, it's not memorialized in your resolution. They're very well intended, but you get a corporate flip of everything, and that use is approved if they upgrade a lease point, three-phase power, whatever it is that they have to do. Your challenge is the broader the use category you approve without any narrowing of it, which you can do on a conditional use, then that their other choice is to come back at the then time if they get such a tenant and get your use approval at the time. Because once you approve these up front, Justice, they are there.
Yeah, that is correct. So you could strike that use and then give back the use of specific window tinting at this location.
I think I would like to do that. So
from the developer's perspective, I don't think that's a problem.
Okay.
That'd be, from their perspective, I don't think they have any heartburn.
And if there was, in the future, if there was another automotive paint or body use that y'all were interested in, then that would come back to us as a conditional use approval.
Yeah, if you restrict this further, that's correct. They can apply at any time to do that.
And they fully understand some of that. We worked through a bit of that at the planning commission level with some of the things we were pulling off of this upfront request. So I think there shouldn't be any issues with that.
Megan, after we are done with discussion here in the public hearing, Tyler would just offer an amendment.
Yes, he would just amend it,
Okay.
and we can walk through that at the then time.
Okay.
All right. Going back to you mentioned the aesthetics of this development and this area being what we consider one of the gateways into Auburn. During the planning commission meeting, you had made reference to the Leach Science Center on campus as an example of how the brick veneer would work with the cladding, which is I personally think it's a good looking building, and it's a good way for that to work. What I would like to make sure in this specific situation is that this development fits in with the existing structures, existing developments that are popping up on that Bit Creek gateway. Would the applicant, would y'all be okay with agreeing to maybe a brick veneer with matching cladding of existing buildings in that area?
I spoke to them about that previously, and I think they're going to be A-okay with that. Their other similar facilities are not, the facade on them are not the exact same, so they're not exactly married to, a certain type of cladding for the delivery of the building. I think they're going to be fine with that.
Okay.
The example they submitted, that you mentioned that I spoke to at Planning Commission, had some architectural metal panel and some brick, and that was the closest example to this particular location that I could think of that was representative of that. So I think that's a good point. But they are very flexible on that. So if that's a requirement, I don't see any reason they wouldn't comply.
Okay. One more question. Will this facility, will it be condoed out, or will it be, everything be owned by the,
They intend to maintain ownership of the whole
Okay.
thing. That's right. And that's part of what their on-site management is gonna, they're gonna be
These-
basically the
these spaces will be
operators. Mhm.
Is sign
Correct.
longer term leases on these, or is it a short term, year long, 2 year? What are the?
That we haven't discussed, but my understanding is the way their other facilities operate, I think they operate on 2 and 3 year leases, similar to other commercial office spaces. Pretty typical lease terms.
Can you go back to the topography a little bit? You talked about, there's between Glen and this site is undeveloped, or it's not part of this, so all of it'll be undisturbed, kind of buffer to Glen, in that
Correct.
strain. But also, does this sits above Glen, I guess?
This is
right?
higher than Glen and a touch lower than Bent Creek. So I think we're on the order of 6 to 8 feet lower than Bent Creek with like the immediate adjacency. Because you can picture Waffle House, the Goo Goos right there, and then back towards Glen. The pad is about 30 feet higher, but there's also a hole on that piece of property that's a little bit lower than Glen that buffers this parcel that they're wanting to develop. It's actually, it is a single parcel, but it was pad graded out 20-something years ago, I think, when
For
Hilton Garden
the La
was.
Quinta, that didn't happen.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right. So this is that site. But yeah, it'll have an undisturbed buffer unless for some reason, I don't know if there's any kind of covenant or something on the parcel that sits on Glen that buffers this. But I imagine it's gonna be pretty tough to develop because of that topography. So I would expect that vegetative buffer to stay there for quite some time.
So going down Glen, you'll be able to see this property looking up towards Bent Creek, because it'll sit far enough above. That buffer there is not.
You'll probably be able to see the top. Yep.
Okay.
That's right. And so I don't think you'll be able to see it on the approach angle as you Bent Creek takes a right if you're heading towards Airport Drive. I doubt you'll be able to see much of it there, like around Wendy's. But it is likely that you may see the roofs over the top of the trees on that buffer piece of property. It is a good bit of depth. It's about, like I said, it's about 188 feet off the right of way. So we're more like 200 plus feet off the edge of pavement at Glen.
Okay.
So there's a good bit of space there. Like I said, the vegetative buffer will remain, but if there's any kind of cladding issue with like the backs of the building or something like that, I'm sure they could look at that as part of the development.
You're going to be able to enter this through where the red light is, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So the piece of property that we're developing actually extends up to the red light. There's an access easement along there that allows other businesses to tie off of it. But that's part of what is triggering the requirement for this facility to meet the zoning ordinances corridor overlay regulations for the facade. Because it technically does front Bent Creek Road.
And that's privately maintained easement, not city maintained,
Correct.
including litter that you see in the area.
The
Those are private property.
The easement going between the gas station and
Bent Creek Motors,
Bent
that's
Creek
also not a public street. You can see where the cul-de-sac ends, and that becomes private, and people like to hightail it through there, as you're very familiar with Councilman Koblenz, cutting to the interstate.
Okay. And then the easement behind there is privately held, is what you're saying, okay.
A lot going on that piece of property from a plat perspective, but all privately maintained.
Are you familiar with the facility out in Wyndham Industrial Drive in Opelika?
Yes, sir.
It matches this, it
Similar.
has tones of that.
Correct. Correct.
Any other questions?
Will this drive continue to be private?
Yeah, there's
A
no
private drive?
intention, I'm looking at my development staff.
I don't think they want the roads.
Yeah,
so.
no, the public
Yeah.
street that is there is ours, Hilton Garden Drive, and the cul-de-sac piece, and then the rest is all private access easements.
Okay.
There's also one behind Burger King off of South College and all of that. That is also not a city street. That's, again, private easements. We required cross-access at the time, and we got a good bit of help from the developer and the people that followed on with development. But again, those are private roads and not maintained by the city.
With any of these buildings, I see that there are roll-up doors that kind of delineate a tenant's space, but there's no reason necessarily that somebody's business could occupy an entire building.
No reason necessarily from their business perspective. I'll say that's pretty atypical for the size of some of these buildings and the tenants they tend to attract. I don't think they've got anywhere that that's the case at their other facilities.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience, Mr. Thorpe.
No, thank
We
y'all.
appreciate it.
Call me back if you need me.
Anyone else? Public hearing for this is still open. If you'd like to address the council, please come forward and give us your name and address for the record. You have 5 minutes. Okay, so, excuse me, we'll close the public hearing. Any further questions or comments from the council?
I have a question about access. So it was first stated that access would be off Hilton Garden Drive. And then it was stated, can they access it from the red light at Bent Creek?
They can. That all ties together back there.
They can do both?
Yeah, I think that's what Lee was referring to, because you've got a public street that stops at a certain point, but a ton of roads that look like public streets, but they're in essence privately maintained access easements.
Do we ever anticipate a need for a traffic signal of any kind at Glen and Hilton Garden?
We're taking a hard look at that in terms of it warranting. Our challenge is the more that we put on there, we're having collisions, and we do, but people are also not expecting that. We've already got very, very, very difficult traffic conditions up and down that corridor as we closed off for the airport purpose a major throughway. Councilman Parsons talked about it for bicycle and why it was a 2-lane road. I mean, we have limited ways to get between the two cities, and so Glen is heavily challenged with traffic. So yeah, we have data on it. We're looking at that, but we also have very high speeds going on that road. And as we know, our experience, I'm not advocating for a roundabout there because it's not what I'm doing, but those we get, much safer situations for people. We want to be sure if we're looking at a signal here, what can we do to deal with the speed of traffic? Because you don't want people blowing through that at a high rate of speed, not expecting it. It's a very challenging area, and that's also going to push more traffic if we put that signal up on Hilton Garden Drive and more cut-throughs, and that's something that we're evaluating.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Okay, would you like to offer an amendment?
I'd like to offer a couple amendments.
May I make a suggestion about the
Howard.
brick facade? If you're looking at that, is to give the staff some flexibility with the applicant in how you may choose to word this, because if you say an all brick facade, then we're gonna take that all 4 sides of that building are gonna be brick, period. And I don't know if that's what was intended justice or not, or, if the council's willing to indulge, if you could give some flexibility to the planning team to evaluate that. If your intent is anything that's visible, be brick, or not. If you want all 4 sides brick, that's fine. We just need some clarity on what you're thinking before you make an amendment to that. Because there's a lot of ways we can interpret that, and I want to make sure we're clear.
Can I ask the applicant?
Sure can.
Is that,
I want to make sure, because
It's-
if we don't do this, then we have to come back and amend things,
Yeah.
and I don't want to slow them down if we're not clear.
Absolutely.
Yep.
There was a mention there that this falls in a certain,
Corridor overlay.
that requires specific,
That is
facade.
correct. The condition would be stricter than that, though.
Yeah, so it's having to meet certain criteria already, but it doesn't make it have to be brick at this stage.
Yep, that's true.
But there are many materials that can be perceived as various facades without it being brick. I mean,
Correct.
there's a lot of technology that's been
Yeah,
formulated to create more attractive look with it now being brick.
that is correct. So the 429 corridor standards, they're stricter than, I guess, kind of the other roads in town, but they're not as strict as some of the other zoning districts in town. And so the main difference is kind of cementitious siding is allowed, and then also kind of in other situations where it applies where it's street facing. And then on different buildings, and that was actually a project that Lee had down on West Veterans, where a portion of the building going back into the site had to be brick because it was visible because of the angle that it was at from the street. And so I'm just saying that it is worth clarifying, and I guess there is a big gap between the materials that are used. They have I'd say about a dozen or so options, and then it's also open-ended to what can mirror natural materials. And so it's not just brick.
How is that?
So we can work with staff, you can tell us
How
what your
best to
intent
define
is.
that?
Yeah, if you're wanting anything that is visible from the corridors to be brick and a general brick look, they can look at a blend of materials. You can leave it in the planning director's hands, which is you want brick added in, you want it to be the main theme, and we can take it from there at the planning director's discretion.
Yeah, and so that's handled in the DRT process. That's a part of the submission that they have to submit, and then it will come with material call-outs, and so it's not just they get to submit a picture. They have to actually submit what the materials are, and then we talk about it. Sometimes if I have several samples in my office from multiple people of different materials from all over the city, so.
Lee, is that in line with what we previously discussed tonight?
Yes, sir, I believe it is, and
Okay.
I'll say this with respect to the brick versus the other corridor overlay material options. They're A-okay with matching kind of everything else around it. I would ask for flexibility with regards to where some of that goes, just because we haven't had a discussion particularly about all four sides of these buildings with how it lays out. They may have not had the intent to put it on the back or something like that. So that was the only caveat I'd say there. But as far as brick, I don't think we're worried about that.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to say, I think the emphasis to me, this is a main corridor coming into a gateway, as it's been said, into our city. I think the emphasis needs to be on these corridors that are facing Bennett Creek, Glen, and I think the facade needs to match what's around there, whether it's brick and natural material. I just really, want to emphasize the importance of I don't know what particular facade you're going.
You have a grouping of buildings on Glen Avenue. Vandy Harper built them many years ago that were brick. They're across from Academy Sports and Outdoors and Indian Hills subdivision. They've been there for many years, and all that people see from the road is red brick.
Yes.
And they are very similar. They've got multiple uses in there and so on. We need some clarity, which is the back of the building completely not visible is up to you. If I'm interpreting what I've understood is all of you are saying you wanted to match things in the area, and it should be as bricked as possible everywhere you could possibly see it, and matching other things. The planning director, if you give him some discretion in that, then he will see that through. If you just say brick only, then we're going to make every inch of that building is going to be brick as far as visibility. So, and that's fine. It's up to y'all.
I don't think that's the intent. The intent is that the
Visibility.
is that the visibility and that the aesthetics of the development are in keeping with the character of the surrounding developments. So,
Yeah, that's fine. We can do that.
Are there levels of aesthetics in the zoning ordinance that you can point to, or in the DRT? Are there like level 1 aesthetics, level 2, or is it not laid out like that?
No, not really. I think on this, like I said, it's just kind of the natural materials, and there's really kind of an offering of about a dozen materials, but it's open-ended about kind of whatever mimics natural materials. And so just kind of going brick really is just kind of pretty simple. And so I think from the corridor side, as far as like what faces, I guess that direction would be the north side and probably the east side. It's kind of what y'all are talking about, since that other street's, I guess it's technically a connector, but the other street's a private street, so it wouldn't qualify.
Yeah, because if I'm looking at the gas station, the Waffle House, the car wash,
They've all got brick, yeah.
they have minimal brick, but they're not fully brick. I mean,
Correct, and the Hilton Garden Inn is not. It had a corridor material that meets a different criteria.
yeah, I mean, I would be in favor of elevated aesthetics, but I think requiring all brick and giving some flexibility is key, especially given what is surrounding it, and those are not all fully brick.
I can put it this way, if you put that criteria on and staff and the developer, which I don't believe will happen, came to an impasse, we can bring it on back and say we're at an impasse, but otherwise, we would proceed with your direction.
So move to amend to add a
Yeah.
condition for an enhanced facade that includes brick and other natural materials, matching cladding. That it's in keeping with adjacent buildings. I mean, is that?
That's fine, we've got it now.
Yeah, that works for me.
Yep.
All right.
You need a second on that?
Second.
There we go.
Motion second. Any questions?
Yeah, one quick question. The extra space storage is between Glen and the airport. What's it look like from the street?
It's
Sort of
it's
across
got both
from-
of those
Yeah.
elements. It's a mix of
Yeah.
really what you'd call ephes, stucco,
Yeah, and
cementitious material, and
yeah,
brick.
that's what I'm talking about. There's really a range, and so it's really just kind of whatever mimics natural material, but it's called out as far as hard coat, stucco, and then cementitious siding. Those are things that are allowed on the corridor, and so they're really just kind of hard, natural looking materials, pretty much, not all the way up to brick.
So, I mean, it doesn't look good, but it complies.
It does.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we're voting on Tyler's First Amendment here. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and the amendment passes.
All right, and I would like to make one more amendment. I'd like to move to amend the road service use. Limit that from automotive paint and body work to simply window tinting.
Second.
All right, have a motion second. Any comments or questions on this
Should-
amendment? Yes.
Would it be simpler to strike road service use and just put window tinting as
It's
a?
the category is road service use, so you're fine, because window tinting kind of falls in the North American Industrial Classification Systems under that. That's why we're kind of stuck with it. So you're further defining that category that's in the zoning ordinance to take it a step further, that's all. I get where you're coming from, but this is cleanest. Even though it doesn't seem that way.
Yeah, you read my brain. Yeah, because in my mind, if you say road service, then that opens.
Right, that's just a category within the zoning ordinance, and because it's an automotive-based use, it has to be called a road service use. Yep.
The only road service use that would be allowed.
Limited to. Can we
Yeah,
say
well, it's already limited to that because there are a few, though, that are permitted by right in CDD, and I'd have to think what they are, because I'll remind you that there's a whole host of uses they already get.
Yeah.
Right.
These are just the conditional ones. And I can't remember if ATM or something like that is, permitted, but it would just be this one.
And if there's an additional road service use
Comes
not
back.
listed, then they could come back and
That's
ask for
conditional, it
conditional.
comes back to you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Right.
Any other questions on the Second Amendment Mr. Adams has offered? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the Second Amendment carries. So we do have a motion and second already for, to approve. So this would be approving this resolution, this use with the two amendments, okay? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Item 10A3 is a request for conditional use approval of the expansion of an existing industrial use, a data center located at 1571 West Sanford Avenue for a project known as Project Apollo and formerly known as AUBIX. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this request at its January 8th meeting. A public hearing is required.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and second. This time we'll open the public hearing. If you'd like to address the city council, you have 5 minutes to speak, and we'd ask that you come forward and give us your name and address for the record.
Excuse me, Lee Tharp, Cadre Engineering for the applicant. Just wanted to point out that this is we're redoing a previous conditional use that's based off a master plan from back when this thing was developed originally. Similar intent, just trying to get the ISR, FAR, and all that good stuff updated. So if you got any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Any comments or questions from the council? Yes, sir, Mr.
I don't know
Griswold.
how many of y'all saw in the Villager, there was a pretty derogatory cartoon or political cartoon about data centers, and it showed public utilities and public water being pumped in and basically stolen from the community. We had this discussion during our committee of the whole, or excuse me, the packet meeting, and we were assured that this is not the problem here, that they're gonna have their own substation. They're using a circular enclosed cooling system. So those of you that may have seen that cartoon, it's not what we're looking at for Auburn.
So the applicant has, and thank you, Councilman Griswold, it's something the industrial board's been focused on when this project was built. It did not have a closed loop system for cooling for water. It is an older system. We have a new owner that comes in all their facilities and does a glycol, Philip, correct? Glycol system, it makes an initial water draw and does less. You are fine to also condition this expansion on them completing the installation of the glycol system. The IDB has a letter of them committing to it. Our Water Resource Management Director, Mr. Eric Carson's been involved. And Councilman Griswold's exactly right. You'll have a conditional use for the electric substation that goes for this. It's a new line being brought into Auburn to feed this substation that will have no impact on our current businesses, nor our residential power, nor the university and aspects of things for our own growth over time. That's something the industrial board's been very careful about with this company and with Alabama Power. Philip, you need to, if you're gonna do this, you gotta stand up and talk to the microphone. And I love this because I used to work for Philip.
I think it's very important on the power to understand this is a dedicated power line being run specifically under contract to deliver 40 megawatts to this site.
This is coming straight from the dam.
That's correct.
Right, so that's why we want to be very clear that this is something the Industrial Development Board from day one has been very intentional about. There's a lot of things, Councilman Griswold's point in the media about power and water for these. It's something we monitor closely. The Industrial Board has no desire to recruit heavy water and sewer users to Auburn. That's never been the goal of the board, and won't be. And this is something we've worked very closely on. I've worked on it for nearly 30 years in my career with the city and will remain staunch about that. But to Councilman Griswold's point and a number of questions I've had from all of you over the last year to 3 or 4 years, something we're monitoring closely, and the company's committed to doing that the right way.
So would a condition for requiring the closed loop system?
Absolutely fine. They need to be installed before the expansion is completed and open. Yep. They are actively working on it, Philip, correct? Yep.
I was
Yep.
informed, they sent me a confirmation that they were installing a new system with the expansion.
Yes. And that's fine if the council would prefer to do that.
Other questions?
I would
Okay.
like to amend to add a condition that the closed loop system, whatever the technical term for that may be, is,
The glycol closed loop system. Yep.
glycol closed loop system is installed prior to, operation
Sure.
of
Of
the
the addition.
expansion?
Yep.
Second.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions on that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Any further questions or comments on the original motion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries.
Item 10A4 is request for conditional use approval of a commercial support use and electric power substation for property located at 1501 West Sanford Avenue. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this request at its January 8th meeting. A public hearing is required.
Move for approval.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. This time I'll open the public hearing. If you'd like to address the council, please come forward and give us your name and address for the record. You have 5 minutes to speak to the council. Seeing here no one, we'll close the public hearing. Any comments or questions from the council? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries.
All right. Item 10B is a request to rename Lee Road 23 to Neal Road. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this request at its January 8th meeting. Public hearing is required.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. This time I'll open the public hearing. If you'd like to address the council, please come forward and give us your name and address for the record. You have 5 minutes to speak to the council. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. Any comments or questions from the council,
I have one, if I may.
please?
All right, so this is going to be Neal Road all the way from Lee Road 10 down to where it joins up with the city limits at the southern portion of our map here. I know I'm leading up to something. I know that sounds a little strange, but will it be 23 after that or during any of those segments?
The area delineates Lee Road 10's, south to
Sand
where
Hill.
it joins. Huh?
Yeah, so it will for the parcels that are still in the county. Yeah, and so Neal Road is just for the city address, the one that's annexed into the city.
Is there any problem with having some addresses Lee Road 23 and some addresses Neal Road
No,
along
we
this
we
same
deal with this all the time.
Okay.
Yep.
Society Hill Road's a good example.
And yeah, you, basically your first indication, and we dealt with this with a board and commission request recently, if it says your address is whatever Lee Road something, it's the first indication somebody likely doesn't live in the city limits. But public safety and our 911 systems and so on deal with it frequently.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries.
Item 10C1 authorizes the purchase of an Intergreen ILF Alpha Eagle Boom Mower from Intergreen America Incorporated for the Public Works Department in the amount of $317,347.82.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any comments, questions from the council?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
This was indicated in the budget at $250,000, and this budget request is for $317,000+. Why is there such an increase? It's 22% increase or so?
There's an increase due to inflation, tariffs, and other things. I'll also point out that item 8C2 had nearly a $200,000 savings. So as when we plan the budget and get pricing for things, we have ebbs and flows, and what that is, sometimes state contracts roll over, and sometimes we change our minds about the use of equipment. Holistically, I can have Mr. Ballard speak to that otherwise.
Yeah, so we always obtain multiple budgeting quotes when we're developing these budgets, and if we're uncertain on the exact piece of equipment that we're gonna purchase, we obtain multiple from multiple vendors, so different types of equipment that meet that same need. We did that in this case, we just missed the mark, so it was slightly more expensive, due to the exact causes.
Okay. And that's, you can cover this within the other aspects of the Public Works budget? Then.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
All right,
So
thank
the
you.
balance of our capital outlay, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries.
And last but certainly not least, item 10C2 authorizes a contract with SHI International Corp. to upgrade the city's Microsoft Enterprise Agreement from E3 to E5 user licenses for calendar year 2026 and calendar year 2027 for a total cost of $326,153.55.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Anyone on the council have a question? Comment? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries.
Mayor, those are all of the items of business we have for you this evening.
All right, this time we'll open citizens' open forum. It's your opportunity to speak to the council about anything that might be on your mind. Please address your comments to the council. You have 3 minutes to speak, and we'd ask that you come forward and give us your name and address for the record. Yes, sir.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Steve Cosgrove, 1927 Watercress Drive. How about the Indiana Hoosiers? That was some, the good guys can win. But, I I really appreciate the opportunity again, just a few minutes to have, but I haven't seen you for a while. But I'm still concerned about a couple of things. One is that the pedestrian crosswalk at the articulation, I guess the right term is, of Tishner and Gay Street. It just seems to me one of the more dangerous and more utilized pedestrian crosswalks, and it's like the confluence of a expectation, which is the students coming to that crosswalk and they see it, they just assume that the drivers are going to pay attention to them, or the confluence of expectation of habituation. The drivers, they see the green light and they just take off. They don't see each other at all. And I'm just really worried about that. I'm a worrier. And I've got a responsibility to bring this up. And I really don't care how much it bothers anybody. I'm going to keep bringing it up. Because something I learned from my dad and our family was, if you see something, don't just say something, do something. If you see something that's of concern, you have a responsibility, and so I feel that responsibility, and that's everything that I've ever done in my life. Protection, direction, and correction. 3 words that we all benefited from our parents. We got great parents. I know yours. I know Miss Patsy. Yes, love that lady. But the first thing is the protection. A good coach, a good teacher, a good parent will offer those 3 things, and they'll also operate in a safe, keep things safe, fun, fast-paced, and content strong. You got an entire department ably led by William Matthews in Department of Public Safety, certainly one of the more prominent. I really, really, really like that the schools have the prominent visibility of the patrol car out in front of them and so forth, keeping things safe. I just would ask you to think about if you would consider seriously looking at that intersection and be able to answer the question that we've done everything here to make it as safe as we can. There's not even an inert, little yellow sign there that does nothing, because it just obfuscates vision. But I'm just asking you if you would do that. Right. And thank you. Thanks for letting me bring this to you again, and thanks for letting me say hello to you.
Thank
Good
you,
luck
Mr.
to you all.
Cosgrove. Yep, Happy New Year.
Good luck to you, sweet mama.
Who'll be next?
Good evening. Deborah Beal, 802 Tullahoma Drive. And today I got to see pictures of the new development where Boykin's going to be, the library's going to be, and the splash pad. And we all know what those things are in recycling, but it's the cultural center that I'd like to ask some questions about, and you may not have answers for me tonight, but I know when it was first passed, it was, there were these grand ideas about what it was going to be, but it doesn't look how I expected it to look. And because I kind of envisioned it more as a museum or, an archive or something like that. And what I'm hearing now is more, it's like a place to meet and have classes and that type of thing. So I'd love some clarification and some public education about what it is we're going to have it available for, because it's going to be ready pretty soon. And so I just ask that you look at that, and I also wonder who is it that's going to be, what department is it going to be under? Is it Parks and Rec, or is it somebody else? So that's my questions. And since I have another minute, I'm also going to ask that during this moratorium on building, and we're looking at transportation in the city and the congestion in the city proper, is also a good time to look at a public transportation system as a possible thing to help with clogging of our roadways and building of new things. It also would provide the ability for people who want to work but have trouble getting to their jobs. All the plants and the plant workers, I know quite a few that have to pay people to get them to their jobs. And if that person is out sick that day, they don't get to their job. So I just ask that you look at that as a possibility. Thank you.
I'll make some comments about that after we get through with all the potential speakers. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dave Abear. I live at 1163 Overwood Court. I just have a couple of things I'd like to address with all of you. The first one is this summer there was construction on East University near Stoker to widen the road from 4 lanes to 5 lanes. It has reduced the road rage almost to 0. Thank you so much to all of you for getting that job started and almost finished. Thank you all the directors, all the workers, all the city council, Mr. Mayor, Madam City Manager, thank you. The only question I really have now, though, because I've seen the traffic light go up, I don't see a kiosk where you can push the arrow button to walk across the street in a safe crosswalk. Is there a crosswalk planned for that intersection? There doesn't need to be 2, because I don't think there's going to be that much pedestrian traffic. 1 would be sufficient. So I don't know if the council or if the planning commission knows the answer to that question or can answer that question tonight, but it's a concern I have because I like to go across that street often, and I often have to dodge vehicles to get to the other side, to get to the sidewalk. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We'll get you some responses when we get through.
Again, thank you all very much.
Thank you. Yep. Who'll be next? Yes, sir.
I'm Roy Hartfield. I live at 1919 North Ash Court. And I just wanted to come in and talk to you guys just for a minute about the development of Auburn. And Auburn's growing. We're proud of Auburn. It's a very vibrant city. But I'd like for us to be very careful about how we develop. And this is just general comments. It's strategic, not about any particular development. My address is Ashton Park. I'm across the 147 from the new development that's being proposed right there at the corner of North College and University. But there's other developments in North Auburn. Auburn right now has been, since I moved here 35 years ago, known as a tree city. And right now, a lot of the developments that are being approved are not leaving any trees. And so I also am involved right now in building some houses. I realize that not everybody, we can't stop building houses. The lot I'm building on right now was a trash pile. So we cleaned it up and we're building 6 houses there. So we're trying to make it a nicer place. But leaving trees is something I know that you don't always have as much discretion as you might like to have because of the laws of property rights of property owners to do what they want with their property. But at least try to negotiate with the developers so that you get brownie points of some kind if you leave enough trees that you have legacy foliage and you're leaving the tree as a tree city. And I was kind of motivated with this comment about when I was in graduate school in Virginia. I drove up in the Northeast quite a bit, and I got off on the interstate at Philadelphia, and I got off in South Philadelphia. I don't know if anybody's ever been to South Philadelphia, but it's just row after row after row of high-density housing. It's single-family housing, but it's high-density packed in there. And it ran down over a long period of time. No trees, and I don't think that's what you want Auburn to look like in 50 years. And some of our developments are looking a little bit like that. So just wanted you to be mindful of that.
Thank you so much. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Yep. Who'll be next?
Robert Wilkins, 261 Denson Drive, Auburn, Alabama. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Unanswered questions. Why, after 8 months, does our city manager continue to dance around public records requests by simply not providing just 2 line items, salary and wages, employee benefits, for the Solid Waste Management Fund for 2025? Wasting our city attorney resources by twisting words from the Alabama State Public Records Request Law. City manager continues to misinform the city council, even my own councilman in Ward 5, about our rights as citizens to these limited financial records. How does a moratorium work while the two largest private student housing future developments are under the radar? For over a decade now, the city of Auburn has continued at a rapid pace as destructive developments, especially within downtown Auburn, approved by the Planning Commission and the City Council while benefiting developers and ignoring the citizens' concerns. Why does the city of Auburn provide such huge incentives for expansion of corporations while leaving small businesses with non-existent incentives? How did the 1999 Auburn City Council pass Ordinance 1883, referred to as a family definition ordinance that has become one of the most discriminatory ordinance ever perpetuated upon an American city and its citizens by misusing of its zoning laws? Then in March of 2021, it even got worse. It was parlayed into an ordinance 3288, referred to as short-term rental. How does our city manager wield such power over 8 council members and 1 mayor? I will never know and understand. How does it frivolous yearly independent city audits gain such respect of a council and a mayor while at the same time not able to locate many approved items in the budget? Why are the excessive automobile purchase, excessive salaries for the city manager and her staff, excessive spending disguised as management fees, and the list goes on with the city budget? How can concerned mothers from Ward 1 deal with our police department be ignored by our mayor, city council, and its chief of police instead of just meeting with them? Why did we build a $37 million Taj Mahal called Lake Wilmore and refurbish such wonderful and beautiful parks while ignoring the basic needs of our youth for practice fields, practice basketball courts, and other practice areas? Why are we not training our city council in proper Robert's Rule of Order and constitutionalities of citizens' right by an independent organization, mentioned many times by Susan Bolt? When is Auburn government too big? I think we are there now.
Who'll be next? Okay, we'll close citizens open forum. Couple of responses, real quick. Megan, we're still planning on having the cultural, all that's supposed to open in late summer, early fall.
I asked my
August is-
team the timing of the cultural center completing. Scott?
Its current schedule is projected to complete probably by the end of July. That's the total project. At this point, we're currently working with the contractor to make sure that's good. Of course, we also will be looking and working with staff to make sure we back in the proper time to order all the furnishings and everything so we can get that in place. But that is the current projected time.
Yeah, and so I would say that remains a loose time frame, just
Yeah.
based on many circumstances.
Well, my initiation was going to be with the city manager at the 6-month mark to begin actively working on this, which would include gathering a group of citizens that have a real keen interest in what goes on inside this building and would help define its purpose and how it would work. I believe, city manager, your thought the whole time is this would fall under the guise of the library?
That's correct.
Staff?
And to clarify one thing,
Or
this is
managing yes.
correct, and this is never meant to be any type of meeting center. It's not for meetings, period. We'll let that group ultimately decide. The goal of this, the classroom space, was based on historical things, particularly with African American culture in Auburn, that we might have displays and things that people would come there and teach children of certain age ranges. City schools would rotate through programmatically to learn about history, but this was not a meeting center. It's not for events. It's not for any of that.
It's a celebration of the history
Yes.
of our African American citizens, as well as educational opportunities.
Correct.
And when this happened, Chief Dawson was very much a part of the conversation that initiated this concept, as well as Ms. Taylor. And I certainly will lean on them to assist us as we formulate this. We've got to put organization to this and put a plan together that we can start with. And certainly there's citizens in this community who have unique skill sets that are acute followers of the history of our community that could be great assets to us. So in my mind, I've been working at kind of the 6-month clock, and the 6-month clock is, for me, has been February 1st the whole time. And I look forward to getting together and opening this later on, early this fall, late this summer, and still believe it's going to be a great asset to our community and be a place of education, celebration, recognition of things that maybe have not been spoken to as much as they should have in the past. So anyway, as far as Mr. Abear and the crosswalk, can you maybe just speak quickly to that?
Yes, there are
as
no
to-
plans for a crosswalk there at this time because we have no sidewalk on that other side of the road where he's referring to Stoker Street. We don't have sidewalks there. So there is a sidewalk on East University Drive, but there isn't anything connecting to it. So that is why we are where we are at the moment. There are, at North Dean Road, there's a crosswalk, but our traffic engineer and acting city engineer has informed me as such. Brandy, anything to add to that? No.
Okay.
So if that changes in the future, crosswalks can be striped in. And there's not one at Gatewood either, just for clarity.
Okay. And then the crosswalk at Gay and City Hall, Mr. Cosgrove has brought that forward to us before.
As somebody
Yep.
who's worked in that building since 2001, I'm keenly aware of the crosswalk activity there, and something we've monitored closely. Poor Brandy has been bothered by me for many years about this, and the previous city engineer, Allison Frazier, we flipped the crosswalk's location from the Baptist church side of Titchener and Gay to the City Hall side, trying to make it better. We had been waiting for construction of both the Auburn Bank office building redo and the hotel because we had sidewalks closed in that vicinity to further study and make a move. And ultimately what's going to happen is that crosswalk will be removed completely over the summer. Students use that, and other pedestrians, including those of us that work at City Hall, use that. However, it is not a positive situation. We have to drive it every day and get out in the middle of it and what have you. It's hard to see. People are randomly crossing, so our intent is to remove that over the summer. That's been our intent for some time. We didn't do it over Christmas break because we have a lot of students that are in a certain pattern with walking to and from where they live, and we wanted to give it some time before we got into the fall semester for people making adjustment. We'll be putting a lot of signage and possibly some barricades in that location to keep people from crossing.
Okay. All right. Good. Thank you for updates on that. Anyone else on the council have anything they'd like to add?
I just want to say something to the gentleman that got up about the trees. If you need a tree, I got one in my yard. You can surely have a pine tree. Dig it up. You can have it.
Megan, I do want to speak to the trees because Councilman Adams and I have lengthy conversations about trees and various things that are related to the ecosystem of trees. But when we get into the grit of our zoning rewrite, is that an opportunity for us to evaluate that piece of our development requirements for
You
landscaping?
can. I'll remind everybody that we have a tree ordinance that sits outside of the zoning ordinance, and that would have been in the Jan Dempsey era when that came in, and that is protecting trees on public property and has no regulatory authority on the private property side. And in 2004-ish, 4, 5, 6, we went there, and the outcry to further regulate trees on private property was tremendous and strong. And so the city hasn't gone there. We require that you plant trees. We don't require that you save trees because we have hilly property, we have other things, but this is certainly something that can be looked at, and that is at the council's discretion ultimately what we do.
But like with regard to buffers and undisturbed buffers, that is an area that we could maybe have further conversations.
You absolutely can. Again, there's a whole dance that goes on, which is it doesn't mean that, so people get upset about clear cutting. However, we have tree inch requirements of mandatory trees that have to be planted. And one of our biggest challenges has long been that a tree can be right in the middle of where a building pad needs to be. And that is a tough decision. So I think one of the things that we need to do, depending on what the end goal is you need to provide incentives, and I don't mean direct fiscal cash from the city. I mean incentives within the zoning ordinance for somebody to be able to do basically what they're trying to do and save the tree at the same time.
Right.
And I think that there are things that we can absolutely look at, and we need to be proactive on the positive side. I was speaking to our planning director about this today, and our biggest challenge is we can offer all that. We don't know who's going to take us up on it, but it's up for discussion over the next 2 years for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to follow up on the tree discussion. There's financial incentive to developers to clear cut. I mean, it's basically, it's an easy way to go, and they can, clear off a large piece of property with a one fell swoop. And we allow open burning of those trees within the city limits. And they're supposed to be limited to the size of an automobile. Well, when you see these burn piles, some of them are like 4-story buildings or something. And they burn them because it's financially to their advantage to just burn them instead of having to pay to haul them off or have them ground up or whatnot. So I don't know if there's something we can do in terms of adding some incentives to leave trees, because it would cost them more, to leave some, because they couldn't, they have to haul them all off if they don't, instead of burning them. So I don't know if there's any financial incentives we can offer to developers so that they don't plan on mass removal and burning. Instead, they plan on selective burning and removal of some, but don't know if that's an option or not.
And the incentives that you're referring to would all need to be ordinance-based, because from
Yeah.
cash
Something-
money, we
that's
can't
something to think
do that,
about.
but we can is I think what you're saying is you find a way to make it financially reasonable within our ordinances for them to
Yeah.
do so, some sort of incentive that way, and that's absolutely, we can look at that.
All right.
What neighborhood residential has gone out of their way to really,
First part of Ashland Park did, for sure.
White
That-
Oaks did?
White Oaks did, some others have. And then, you have some other subdivisions, even in Grove Hill, Moore's Mill, where some trees on lots were saved. And other subdivisions have done it. And then the Clevelands at the time had the intent to come back in and plant specific street trees. And some of that was negotiation, and some of that was just the intent of the developers. And so, we are challenged by also that the developability changes with some of that going away. And so, to all of your point, I mean, it's something we can absolutely look at in the zoning ordinance rewrite. And if it's legal in the state of Alabama, ultimately the city council will hold the keys to what decisions are made about that with citizen input and recommendations from the planning commission.
All right. Anyone else?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if I may return to the cultural centre, modelled off the Rosenwald School. It's clear that it may not be a meeting space, but is it going to be some area where things will be displayed or programming?
So we're working through that. From a heating and cooling perspective, we did not put a system in that is to full museum quality where you're really watching humidity. I mean, it's a pretty regular system. Things can be displayed, but I don't know that we intend on a permanent collection being there. It's going to depend on.
So it could host
Yes.
exhibits.
Yes, it will
traveling
host things. They're just not meant to stay there permanently as a museum. The exhibits would be germane to the topic that we are celebrating or the history piece that we are working on.
Yes.
And want to tell the story of. And a lot of this was meant to be educational, particularly citizens of all ages are welcome, but particularly to focus on certain age groups of Auburn schools, not just public schools, but school children in Auburn and the surrounding areas. If there's a program that's attractive to them, that's part of the reason why we would work with the library on this. Is Parks and Recreation does a wonderful job, but the library does a lot with history and research and other things, and I think is best suited from a staffing perspective to work with a team of people to come up with great programming, as both departments already do.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, is there a move to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, we're adjourned.